Hey everyone. Okay, it's March 13th. It is day 10 of Obamagate, TowerGate, whatever gate. Alrighty, well, in past 24 hours, here's what developed. John McCain went on CNN, his favorite show. He loves CNN. He loves MSNBC. He loves the New York Times. He loves anybody that hates Trump. So John McCain goes on to CNN and he puts out an ultimatum to Donald Trump that he's got 24 hours to produce the evidence that he was wiretapped. Who the hell is John McCain to say that to President Trump? He's nobody. Let's go back, John. Let's go back, okay? Where did all this begin, John? Well, this all began when someone allegedly hacked into the DNC and got these files and gave them to WikiLeaks, who then released him, which exposed, of course, the game that was being run on Bernie Sanders to steal the nomination away from him. And we learned some other things as well. But let's just focus on the server. You know, John, after the DNC was hacked, the FBI asked the DNC if they could take a look at those servers so that they could go into those servers and see if, in fact, somebody hacked in, and if so, who. The DNC refused. The DNC didn't want the FBI looking at their servers. They did bring in their own forensic guy. But I think that the reason that they didn't want the FBI looking at their server is because they might have discovered that, in fact, there was no real hack into the DNC server, but rather it was a leak by someone within the DNC. Maybe Seth Rich. Maybe that's why the DNC didn't want the FBI to analyze their servers. It's just a theory, but it's every bit as good as the theory that they laid on us, which is that the Russians hacked the DNC. You see, John, you're asking for Donald Trump to show evidence that he was surveilled. Well, John, I don't know if you've noticed this, but there's been about 30, 40 different newspapers, TV stations, cable stations, and various other commenters, experts in the intelligence community, who have come out and stated that there probably was surveillance on Trump, his team, Trump Towers, or what have you. And there's a lot of stories where they actually say that they have gained information from various wiretaps. In fact, on Inauguration Day, January the 20th, the New York Times top story was about how they had gained information from the wiretaps. Now, you're getting into a sticky issue because you can say, well, gee, were these wiretaps legal? Were these wiretaps done by the FBI? Did Loretta Lynch sign off on them? We're hearing all these stories that there are these FISA warrants out there. And if this is all true, John, which you could look at these too. You sit on the Senate Intelligence Committee. John, you could request those FISA warrants just as easily as Trump could. But he has turned it over to you for some reason in the Congress to do the investigation in this, I guess to keep it from looking political and being engineered by the White House. That's my only guess. But the fact of the matter is, John, there's been plenty of stories with reporters who are willing to stick their neck out to say that they have sources, reliable sources, that they believe are giving them the truth. The truth being that there were FISA warrants sought to, for sure, one from a warrant from the FBI to look at Trump's server. There appears to have been a warrant that was first requested back in the summer and rejected, and then another one that was requested in October to look into something having to do with Trump's possible dealings with the Russians. Now, this warrant may not have specifically been on Trump, but certainly if it was around people around Trump, then you were going to get Trump because he communicates with these people every day. This is why Trump is saying that you need to look into this. It's also very possible that the intelligence agencies could have surveilled Trump because they surveil everybody. So it's reasonable to conclude that Trump was surveilled on. Now, the intelligence agencies, the CIA and the other intelligence agencies, they're not really supposed to be doing that. So they're certainly not going to leave their fingerprints. And again, as I've suggested, it's most likely that when the CIA wants to spy on an American citizen, what they do is they go to a foreign country, a foreign intelligence, and I believe in this case it was probably the British government. They go to them and they have them do the surveillance. That's generally how it's done. But John McCain, it's funny. He's issuing an ultimatum to Trump to provide some proof before they do any type of investigation or look into whether or not he may have been under surveillance from one of the intelligence agencies illegally or through the FBI or the DOJ, which would have been legal if they sought the warrants, assuming that the warrants were based on solid evidence and not hearsay or something else. But John doesn't have any problem with constantly wanting to continue looking into the allegations that Trump had something going with the Russians, despite the fact that there's no hard evidence of that. What we have is the intelligence community saying that they're moderately confident that the Russians hacked it. But John McCain doesn't seem to have a problem with the fact that we could prove that if we could just take a look at those servers. But John doesn't ever mention that when he's on CNN, that the DNC refused to let the FBI go through their server, because if they would let the FBI go through that server, then we probably could get some idea as to who actually hacked into the server, if anybody hacked into it at all. So John has no problem issuing an ultimatum to Trump to come up with some evidence before they do any type of a investigation at the Senate Intelligence Committee, but he has no problem whatsoever wanting to continue the investigation into whether or not Trump had dealings with the Russians, despite the fact that he has no physical solid evidence of that. Only statements from the intelligence agencies, which don't even give them 100% confidence. They're only moderately confident that it was the Russians. They don't know. And we've learned from WikiLeaks that anyone can hack into any type of a server, especially American intelligence agencies, and they can leave the footprints of someone else. Maybe like the Russians. So, you see, John McCain, he's just disgusting. He just doesn't like Trump, okay? Let's just get right down to it. John McCain despises Trump. And for him to go on TV and say that there's no evidence whatsoever, despite the fact that we have multiple reports of news agencies, whether you trust them or not, they have journalists who apparently have sources that they're confident in that say over and over again that there was wiretapping, whether it was specifically on Trump or whether it was on people around Trump, knowing good and well that if you get the people around him, you get him on tape as well. And keep in mind, we're dealing with two things here. We're dealing with legal wiretapping, which there should be record of, because they would have to go through the FISA courts or go through a regular court and get a general warrant, and it seems about 90% sure that that did happen and that does exist. But like I said, there's the intelligence agencies which may have been doing surveillance because they surveil everyone, and for that we will probably never find evidence unless you have a whistleblower, someone who actually comes out of the intelligence community and says, yes, I was a part of the operation to do this wiretapping or surveillance or what have you. So it's just very interesting to watch the way John McCain operates. It's obvious for me to see, and I assume for a lot of other people. But the fact that this guy would go on CNN, the enemy essentially, working against his president, and he has no problem investigating Trump for his Russian activities despite no hard evidence, but he doesn't want to look into whether or not Trump was surveilled with no evidence. So it's just John McCain. This is pretty much what I expect from him. So I don't think Trump's paying too much attention to his ultimatum. But you do have Lindsey Graham, John's buddy, who's the head of that committee. So it's like I said, several videos ago, nothing will actually come out of the Senate Intelligence Committee. We may get a little something out of the House, but I don't expect much. If Trump wants to get to the bottom of this, I think he's going to have to appoint an independent counsel, which Jeff Sessions has suggested he may do. And I think that's what they should do. to look into whether or not Trump was surveilled. And again, I mean, how this was done, nobody knows, but it's pretty obvious. There's a lot of information out there. I don't think we'll ever see the FISA warrants, but the Intelligence Committee could certainly get access to that. And I assume the Trump administration. I don't think they want to do it directly, but I assume that they're trying to get that information. And that's probably what's going to happen. Also, you know, when Trump says Obama spied on me, I mean, he's speaking in general terms. I think what he means is that he's being surveilled, and it was Obama was the president. It was his administration. He was in charge when this surveillance happened. So I don't think Trump's suggesting that Barack Obama went on down to the NSA, hopped behind a computer, and got on there and started initiating the surveillance process. That's not what Trump is suggesting. But he is suggesting that he was being surveilled, and the Obama administration was in control at that point. And if there was surveillance, Obama would certainly have known about it. We also know that both Hillary Clinton and Harry Reid responded. Hillary Clinton sent out an email at the end of October, or did a Facebook post or a Twitter post or something, where she talked about this server that was being surveilled. Harry Reid also sent 2 fairly angry letters to James Comey, asking him, or suggesting, or telling him that he needs to dump all the information he has about Trump's association with the Russians. And this was also in the latter part of October. So how did Harry Reid know that they had this information? Certainly there had to be surveillance, which means Harry Reid had to know that there was surveillance. Hillary Clinton had to know that there was surveillance. And whether or not that surveillance was directly on Donald Trump personally, or whether it was on people around him, if you're getting surveillance on the people around him, you're getting him. So John McCain is he's just pitiful. But anyway, that seems to be what's going on today. In the last 24 hours, McCain makes a big ultimatum. The White House doesn't seem to be interested in even responding to it. They continue to say, well, we're going to let the House Intelligence Committee and the Senate do their investigations, and we'll see what we learn. So that's where it stands for today. Maybe something will come out later in the day, but I doubt it. I think Trump has got meetings the rest of the day, doing other things. Most of his people who were came out yesterday, were on the Sunday morning talk shows. So I don't expect anything more to come out today. But of course, I'll keep watching. If something does, I'll do a video on it. But at this point, nothing new other than John McCain being John McCain. All right, everybody. That's our update for today on TowerGate, Obamagate, whatever we want to call it. Nothing new. It's moving forward at a snail's pace. Drip, drip, drip. See you guys soon. Bye.